And here we are again, another Achievers Web Meet. And what we're going to discuss is the joy of gaining mastery and how to invest, if you like, in your own learning. So that is what we're going to cover today. The main things we will talk about is how to focus on objectives, how to manage obstacles and distractions, especially most of you, I would have thought, are preparing for exams, but there may be some of you who are consultants. And how do you manage obstacles and distractions, both at work and in exams? How do you set boundaries? A little bit around making learning a habit, about using using time effectively, and how to learn at your best and find out your own learning style, and also the benefits of collaborating with others. I think one of the hardest things about learning a new skill is finding the time to do it. So the time taken for professional development can be a real struggle. In fact, research has shown that many of us spend 72 hours working, leaving very little time of the day, precious little time for the day for development as a person, development, professional development and personal development, and doing and investing a bit of time and money and talent into this can enhance your professional value, build up your expertise, makes you much more capable and able to manage challenges when you're given new responsibilities. Okay, so these are 8 strategies that we will use, and we will talk about that a bit more. My name is Koshi Jacob. I'm a consultant radiologist working for a few teleradiology companies. That's what I do as a day job. But most importantly, and where I probably spend the most amount of time now, is in Revised Radiology, working to make a training program that is highly effective for radiologists around the world who are trying to pass exams, particularly the FRCR. Now, I'm a training director of the Southwest FRCR courses, which is now renamed Revised Radiology courses. So that's a little bit about it. I just want to start with this quote. Okay, it's a lot on the screen, and I'll read it out. It's about humbling yourself enough to learn, even when you're on the top of your game. So especially now, when many of you are prepared, you've studied hard, you're prepared. It's about being humble enough to learn even when you're the top of the game. It's about knowing that moment you get comfortable being an executive, that moment when you start feeling I'm comfortable, I'm practicing well, that's when you begin to fail. And that's what's happened to me as well, just in life, as a radiologist. When I get a little bit complacent, that's when things start going wrong. I wonder how many of you who are on this call can identify with that. Just put a yes in the chat box. Do you identify with the fact that you get a little sure about yourself, and then you find that things are going wrong? You either make mistakes, or you have problems in your relationships, or you struggle at something. Say if you feel that's the case, please put it in the chat box. It's about realizing that if you continue being Musafa, and Musafa is this character, the big Lion King, if you like, at the same time you have to keep being Simba. So Simba is the learner, the little lion who's learning from the dad. That's the kind of moment of work, of understanding the value of being a learner while being a teacher. And Mariam here says, yes, but I wonder it shouldn't be that much pressure. I agree with that. Okay, so first of all, in terms of professional and career development, I believe the number one thing that you need to gain is taking ownership. And this is about, for example, being below the line and above the line. So above the line are people who take ownership, who don't make excuses. You invest in yourself. You become self-aware of your strengths and areas of development. You're up to date with the latest advancements, especially in your career, but also you take responsibility for your own learning rather than blaming other people. And I have seen this quite a bit, especially in the UK. You have registrars who they go through a system of training, and they can kind of blame the training scheme for the way they are trained. But in actual fact, what you really need is to take ownership of your own learning. And often when I joined radiology, even when I joined, I did MRCP, you had to make a learning agreement with the department and or with the training scheme, because it's about you taking responsibility to learn. It's not about being taught. We are no more sort of little children who need to be taught everything. We are adults who want to learn. I also noticed we've got Catherine Brower on the call. I'm delighted to see you again, Catherine, on the call. Catherine is a consultant who is very experienced, both as a consultant radiologist, but also in alternative medicine. And she's been involved with the RCR, the CSER program, and all that. So, Catherine, at some stage, it'll be lovely to have you share something around what we've talked about, but also any sort of insights. So you've got to build up your expertise, learn new skills, take part in training programs. Invest a little bit. Don't keep giving excuses. For example, I don't have time, I don't have money. Take ownership. Say, for example, if you want to pass the FRCR, if that's your goal, take ownership of the problem and say, I'm going to do what it takes, whatever it takes to pass. And that Revised Radiology, our new strapline, if you like, is we will make sure that you pass first time. That's where we are. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get you to pass first time. And for that, you've got to take responsibility. Expert power, this is by making valuable and intelligent, insightful contributions to learning and become the go-to person in your team. So this is for consultants particularly. You've got to have something to contribute to learning. And I just want to say something about Mariam here, who's she's not passed her FRCR 2A yet, but I have to say, Mariam, you have set yourself as a go-to person for FRCR 2A exams, and you are using the opportunity of learning to become, or teaching to become a learner, and learning through teaching and teaching through learning. And it's incredible how you can easily, all of you can become experts by thinking a little bit, providing valuable contributions. So let's just talk about objectives. We all know about SMART goals, and for that you've got to be specific. You've got to say, for example, I am going to do this by this. You know what you will do and how you're going to do it. Measurable, having precise ways to measure. So, for example, if you sign up, let's say, to a program where you're going to do rapid reporting, long cases, vivas, you've got to make sure that you can measure your success, and measure yourself against other people, but also against yourself. And for example, rapid reporting, see your scores going up. That's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. Attainable, obviously it should be attainable. And I can say from experience, there are people, for example, who sit an exam. They think, I want to now sit the FRCR. Okay, they haven't done any preparation till the 25th of January, and they then apply for a place in the exam in March. They get it, and then they start preparing. that is a sure, quick way to not be successful. I'm sorry if there are some of you who are going to get offended by this, but I have to say, you cannot plan your preparation after you get your space. You've got to start thinking long term. Okay, so I'm trying to say, you've got to think. If you're planning on sitting in July, okay, I've got to say, you've got to start planning as if you're sitting in July. And if you don't get a space, you should start preparing now. If you don't get a space in July, you've already done a chunk of the work by July, and then September you just keep going forward. Mentally fix yourself on a long-term possibility. And I know that people felt disappointed. I can see that in a number of the comments, that people are disappointed. They've tried 3 times, 4 times to get a space. They haven't. But it's all in the mindset. It's all a mindset thing. If you see this as learning continuously, and you're always learning, you're getting better, you're becoming a better radiologist, you will change your perspective, and suddenly the exams just become part of what you will do for the rest of your life. Being able to visualize results is about being realistic. So you should see yourself as passing the first time. There mustn't be a question in your mind, or achieving whatever you want to achieve in your professional career. Time bound is having a timeline and a plan for achievement. And we say that, because I'm just going to say this because most of you are doing the FRCR, we say that most people should spend about 6 months to guarantee success with the content that's on Revised Radiology. If you do that content properly based on the roadmap that we've published a few times, I will be pretty surprised if you don't make it. Okay, so if you can't, if you can't see the benefit of something, you're likely to give up, because after all, why bother? It's not going to get anywhere. But you've got to see you've got to have a strong sense of purpose when it comes to drawing up your learning objectives. So start by listing out the skills and knowledge that you most want to learn, and then express these as SMART goals. So put yourself, the specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. And it often helps to have a good to-do list or an action program. Okay. Can I just check? I've not been, sorry, I'm just going to enable just a minute. Okay, so let's go on then to the next one, which is an action plan. It helps you organize your learning time. It strengthens your self-discipline. It boosts your motivation. You can measure progress, and you can see the value of continuing professional development. So this is really, really useful, the advantage of having an action plan. So I'd like to encourage you to make yourself an action plan. Okay, that will help. Number 2, you've got to manage the obstacles and distractions. And I'd like you to think about I'd like you to list down in the chat box some of the possible obstacles to success. Okay, just write down on the chat box some of the possible obstacles to success. What are some of the obstacles? And once you've done that, then I would encourage you to go through each obstacles, brainstorm the strategies that will help you overcome those particular obstacles. So, for example, you might plan to commit some time to learning during a daily commute. For example, you might be driving, and you might use that to listen to an audiobook. But as soon as you open up your computer, you get distracted by emails, and before you know it, you've forgotten about learning. So you've got to commit yourself to or reserve time that is only for learning. And then you've got to avoid looking at emails or even looking at your daily to-do list. And then you could even write down this promise as a contract with yourself. So I've got some comments here. Time is an obstacle. It isn't an obstacle, Same. It's all about priorities. It's about how you use your time. I do not believe it's a lack of time. It's a lack of prioritization. Distractions, loss of clarity. That is definitely a major obstacle. That is often the problem. The problem is social media, for example. If we spend the time that we spend on things like social media, or you could suddenly be gaining huge amounts of time, but we have to commit a certain amount of time to learning. And that is time that you set aside. The advantage that we have in Revised Radiology is that you've got a certain number of packets that you could complete. If you complete those packets, you will pass the exam. So all you need to do is set how many packets I'm going to do per day till my exam. And we've already given you the roadmap, which is you finish the 80 packets of rapids, and then you do the first 30 again. You will pass the exam. By then, I hope you'll be getting 28, 29 in the rapids. Long cases and vivas, it's exactly the same. 1,500 vivas you've got to, or cases you've got to attend. Sit on the various courses, be an observer, find hot seat opportunities, go put that list of 1,500 and break it up. How many do I need to do every day? Then you set aside the time to do those 10 cases every day, because then, in 150 days, you either finish the 1,500 and you will be a confident exam going person. Or if, for example, you're a consultant and you want to have time to do a particular project, or time for leisure even, you would set aside the time, you would commit it and make a contract with yourselves for that. I think one of the major lessons in life is saying yes to everything. We all are hugely guilty of this. I've been massively guilty. I love to please. I love to say yes. I'm very accessible to people. People can ring me up, can send me text messages or Telegram messages and ask me. Often I might respond saying, ask someone else, but I'm a very accessible person. And when we have to learn the art of saying no, and no often means saying, no, I'm not the one who's going to solve this, but I can suggest someone else who can. So delegation, for example, could be one of the ways of saying no. Or if someone asks you to take a new responsibility at work and you know that you've got an exam coming up, you might learn to say no. You might, for example, find yourself highly stressed and someone comes up with a new project, you get a new idea. You just have to say no to yourself so that you don't get overstressed. Does that make sense to people? Don't lie, don't make excuses, don't over-explain yourself, simply decline. Because one of the biggest distractions we have is often people. It's often people who give us tasks, or, and we have to say no. You might have set aside some time in your lunch break to read up something on a new development or complete an online test, but other people don't realize it, and work requests keep coming in, and it can be really hard to say no. But learning to be assertive will help protect your valuable learning time. And often you don't have to be aggressive. It doesn't mean you have to be rude or inflexible. You just need to be friendly but firm, and people get to understand, Koshi is not someone I'm going to mess with. If he says yes, he'll do it. If he says no, it's because he really can't. Explain to your colleague what you're trying to achieve and ask that he or she respects your timeout. And your timeout may be timeout to study. Can I get a little interaction here? Who agrees with me on this? Is there any comments around this? Do you just put a yes in the chat box so that I know that I'm not speaking to a mirror, and I'm actually Thank you, Same. I absolutely agree. It'll, yeah. Okay, so continue putting your comments in. So here's a question I have for you. I'm just going to put it in the Slido. Just give me a minute. Let me just get to that Slido. So here's the question. Okay, what are the obstacles that stop you from investing in your career development? So could you just put that in the Slido? What are the obstacles that stop you from investing in a career? And Becky, can you just put a new link for the Slido?
I've just put that again.
Brilliant. So if you can do, and so Summer here writes something about an issue with junior colleagues. Often that they can that is really a distraction. I agree. But if you use the issues with junior colleagues when they come and ask you for, I don't know what the issue is, but let's say all of us have experienced where we're trying to do some work and a junior colleague is there and you have to teach. Well, there is no better way, and I'll come to this later, of learning than to teaching. So we must be welcoming the opportunities to teach if that's the issue. But I don't know what exactly the issue is that you are mentioning that. Continuously coming to my office. So that is where we have to learn to set boundaries. And by setting boundaries, we can make it clear. So is there anyone who can write something on here? What are the obstacles that stop you from investing in your career development? Is it, what kind of things are they? Shall we have a little bit of interaction, please? Fluctuations in degree of clarity and focus. Absolutely agree. That is one big one. Where at some time you feel real clear and focused, and then other times you feel, you've lost that focus. And that's where it helps sometimes to have affirmations where you write down your goals, or you wake up and you affirm what you want to achieve. But also just having your goals written down somewhere where you can refer to it often can help with that clarity issue. Okay. So some of the common obstacles, for example, I'll just say some: social media, procrastination, financial issues can be a big one that stop us from investing in a career. Not properly setting goals, that's a big one. And that leads to a lack of focus. There could be family issues, there could be not a work environment like Sama has been writing, which is not ideal for growth or for working, and you're constantly disturbed. Not knowing which training program, for example, to invest in, that can be a real big problem. So you've got to think about what's the solution to your problem. What is the solution? Okay. So let's move on then and talk about making learning a habit. Learning is an ornament in prosperity, a refuge in adversity, and a provision in old age. Really wise words from Aristotle. When you make learning a habit, you're more likely to make a positive, long-lasting change. And that helps you achieve the goals that you set yourself. And you do this by, let me just go back. You do this by building learning into your daily routine, okay? And therefore, it's quite important to schedule time, just a little bit of time even for learning, but to stick to it. For example, you could get up early on Mondays and Wednesdays to practice a new skill, or find a quiet area each lunchtime to study. So you've just got to find out, for example, and I'll come to this as well. Are you a night owl? Are you a, are you a morning lark? Do you work better in the mornings or evenings? It all helps. But whatever you decide, okay, do it routinely. It's the slight edge principle of doing something often, consistently over time. You build on your knowledge, you build on your experience, you build on your skills, and you start getting exponential results. And passing is not the issue anymore, because you will pass the exam. So be clear what you're going to do, where you're going to do it, and how long you're going to devote to that. Okay. Now, it's quite important to make every minute count. Now, I say minute in a sort of loose way. It's incredible how you could read what you could read in a minute, or something on a Facebook, or not Facebook, or Telegram group, maybe an image that someone posts and says, what's the diagnosis? Just that 1 or 2 minutes is imparting knowledge. And many of us assume that learning requires something new, or requires large chunks of time. But short chunks or short blocks can also be quite effective as long as you focus. The key is to maximize the impact of every moment that you have. And that often starts with a to-do list every morning. And you think about, what can I realistically achieve? So for example, you wake up in the morning, you say, okay, I'm going to complete these 2 or 3 packets. I'm going to get these Viva opportunities. I'm going to set aside time, and you just do it, So obviously for rapids, you probably need 35 to 45 minutes. But if you have only 10 minutes, perhaps you can just look at some images and learn and learn and learn, and try and fit in learning into your thing. So something that I think that everyone should have is StatDX, okay, or Radiopedia. And the reason I say that, I'm just, I can't show it here. Let me see if I can. So let me see if I can show what StatDX can do. So let me see. Okay, so on StatDX, for example, I know a lot of people, all they have is they have StatDX open in a browser, and then you could just go down the list. You could just start with brain and start from the top, and just start with that top one. Just have it open and say, I'm going to, in this 1 hour, I'm going to try and read this, and I'm going to look at these images. That's all I'm going to do. It's going to take me 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to try and learn some new thing that I didn't know. I'm going to look at some images, and and you're just going to get familiar. Okay. And if you look at the images, then you'll just look at perhaps just the notes that are written underneath it. You might not need to look at the left side, just look at the right. But you can do that in 5 or 10 minutes, and as long as you're not getting distracted all the time, it's a brilliant way of getting more and more knowledge. So you've got to, you can use other strategies like speed reading, mind mapping, and making use of bite-sized, like I've shown you, training resources that can help you maximize every moment when you have a limited time. And the advantage with StatDX is everything is so well categorized, and and Revised Radiology, you can get StatDX from Revised Radiology. Is a big benefit through 2 ways you can get it. You can get it through signing up to the Revised Radiology Academy Plus, but you can also get it through signing up to the Deluxe Course. So 2 ways you can get the StatDX, and I highly recommend it as a way of just having knowledge. It's a small investment to make. It's normally about thousands of pounds, but you get it through Revised Radiology in a much more cheaper.